Hello and welcome once more to this Red Gaming Tech video. Myself, Amata, where as always I'm here with the latest news from the tech world as of the 10th of February, and we're going to begin things with a few bits from AMD, the first of which is regarding the Radeon Pro W5500. So today brought with it an official announcement for the W5500 workstation graphics cards, as well as the W5500M GPU, which as the name suggests is for high-performance professional mobile workstations. So we do have some specifications for both of these graphics cards. For the W5500 full-fat variant, we see 22 compute units up to 5.35 teraflops, 8 gigs of GDDR6 memory, and memory bandwidth of 224 gigabytes a second, and 128-bit memory interface. As for the W5500M, we still see 22 compute units, but we see up to 4.79 teraflops, 4 gigs of GDDR6 memory, and the same memory bandwidth and memory interface. And AMD did have a little bit of a statement. This was from Scott Herkelman, the Corporate Vice President and General Manager of Radeon Technologies Group, and he said, quote, "Designers and engineers require a professional graphic solution that delivers the performance and efficiency to meet today's unique challenges. Nothing is more stressful than a deadline, and AMD professional graphics keep performing when you need them most. The AMD Radeon Pro W5500 graphics card delivers exceptional power efficiency and leadership performance for 2D and 3D design applications, enabling them to better visualize and interact with their designs in real time, explore new immersive workflows like virtual reality, and maximize productivity." So obviously these are professional graphics cards, not really meant for gamers at all, more for your person who wants to do your editing, game development, etc, etc. Still interesting stuff, but we're going to move over now to more consumer level products, as we have first of all a benchmark for the Ryzen 5 4500U. So this is all thanks to overclockers.ua. There was a post there which has now been removed, but the real MVPs are notebookcheck.net, who posted an article about this before it was removed from the Ukrainian outlet, and this actually broke embargo, which is obviously why it has been taken down. Regardless of that though, you can find Notebook Check's article linked in the description below this video. So we see the Ryzen 5 4500U in this particular instance finding its home on an Acer Swift 3 S314-42 notebook, which is out later on this month. As terms of the specifications for the 4500, we do see 6 cores and 6 threads, base clock of 2.3 GHz, and a boost clock of 4.0. We also see 8 megs of L3 cache and 3 megs of L2, and this all comes in a very small power envelope of 15 watts. As for the graphics side of this particular chip, we do see the updated 7nm Vega 6 graphics core, which has 384 cores, meaning a graphics clock of up to 1500 MHz. Now obviously the focus of this topic is the Ryzen processor, but obviously given that we're talking about benchmarks, the specs of the rest of the notebook build are very important. We also see 8 gigs of LP DDR4 memory at 3200 MHz. There's also a 256 gig M.2 SSD from Samsung, and no HDD option is listed in the specs list. So, now that we've got all that out of the way, what do we actually see in terms of the benchmark results? Now we have quite a few benchmarks to get through, the first of which is the CPU-Z benchmark. We see a multi-thread score of 2579 and a single thread score of 484. But we also have CINEBENCH, we see a score of 785, and then moving on to Geekbench 5, single core is 4282, and then multi-core is 1074, and then we see X264 HD benchmark 5.0, first pass was 43.5, and then the second pass was 17.5. As for PC Mark 10, we do see a score of 5024, and CINEBENCH R20, we see 1843 being the results here. And then finally, we see PC Mark 8, where we see various scores for work, 5543, creative 5850, and then home is 4658. So how does that actually come into like real world things? What does that actually mean? Well, if you just take a look at the CPU Z score, the 4500U is on par with the i5 9600K desktop processor, which may remind you is a 95 watts TDP part, and given that this chip weighs in at just 15 watts, that's very impressive. And as Notebook Check themselves point out in the article, the Ryzen 5 4500U is up to 50% faster than the i5 8250U, which is also a 15 watt part. Now we do see a bunch of game benchmarks. I'm not going to go through all of them because quite frankly I'll be here until the end of time, but I'm just going to pick a few. We do see a 3D Mark Time Spy score, DX12 of course, overall score 947, the GPU score was 839 and the CPU score was 3502. As for the game results, we see The Witcher 3, yes I know, but it was running on low, both at 720p and 1080p, and you can see the results for yourself on screen. We also see Battlefield 5 at low, 720p here, Far Cry 5, once again 720p low, and Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim SE, 1080p low, DX11. So as you can see, pretty consistent results across all of those games that I mentioned. There is a bunch more results which you can find in the article linked in the description below this video. For example, it does impressively well in GTA 5, but we're looking at hovering around 30 FPS depending on the game you're talking about. But that is not the only benchmark we have for Ryzen 4000 today. We also have the 4800HS benchmark up next. So these are all thanks to Tom Apisak, and of course you can find his tweet linked in the description below this video. And we can see various Time Spy scores which have been posted, but the one we're talking about here is the Ryzen 7 4800HS, of course, which comes in at a score of 8730, and then he has helpfully retweeted an old tweet from back in January, basically showing how the 4800H came in. That came in 8350, and then the 2700X, came in 8600, and obviously the 3700X did beat this part significantly, unsurprisingly, coming in at 10180. Now for those of you wondering what the difference is between the S and non-S variants, basically it is currently exclusive to ASUS. It is a special binned version. It basically is a 4800H with the same base and biz clocks, but with a slightly lower TDP of 35 watts instead of 45. So a slight difference, but not massive. So that's all the benchmarks out of the way for today. We're actually going to move on now to some pretty interesting updates for the PlayStation 5 GUI. So you may have seen the reports doing the rounds that there was a brand new leak for the PlayStation 5 GUI, which seemed to be in line with the UI leak that occurred last month. This was posted on Reddit and appeared to, at the time, be taken from a PS5 debug kit. Now, unfortunately, it has been confirmed to be fake. Now, I can't blame people for thinking that this was legit. It looks pretty damn good. The person who posted this on Reddit has a history of creating mock-ups. You can find a link to a Reddit thread on r/PS5, where he posted just 19 days ago a DevKit UI concept, where it was a horizontal layout instead of the vertical strip layout that we currently see on the PS4. So this wasn't done maliciously by this person. This is just what they like to do for fun, just to kind of like play around and see the possible improvements that Sony could make, UI layouts, etc, etc. Unfortunately, this one, the most recent one, is fake. Just to confirm. But let's finish up, shall we, with some comments from Xbox's Phil Spencer. So, he made some interesting comments regarding the Xbox Series X, unsurprisingly, in a recent interview with the Gamertag podcast. Now, you can find a link to that in the description below this video. It is on Spotify, so if you don't have an account, you want it's a great one if you wish to listen to it. But regardless, it is there for your perusal. So, basically, he talked about quite a few things, unsurprisingly. What he fully had to say is really long. I'm not going to read out all of it. The part I'm focusing on here is talking about exclusives. So he said, quote, "Now, specifically on exclusives or non-exclusives, I mean, one of the benefits that we have just sitting inside of Microsoft is we've obviously been close to development of what's been going on at PC for years, right? And I think today, if we look at the PC ecosystem, we'd say, I think that's what to say, some of the highest fidelity games anywhere sitting on high-end gaming PCs. And some of these games are actually able to run on PCs that are quite a few years old, that have much less capability, and the state of engines and capability today means that developers finally have the capability to take full use of the gaming hardware that's in front of them. Obviously, we built our strategy with Xbox Series X. We started with that in mind. If we wanted to build a gaming console, that it was going to be the absolute best that we could deliver on a TV and deliver unique capability to creators that they could use to go and create the best games. But you don't want to do that to the exclusion of everybody else. And you also want to do that hand in hand with developers, because developers want to find the widest audience possible at the same time. And yes, there are always trade-offs what you're going to do from developing each individual game. And I'm not going to dictate to every studio, every third-party studio, kind of what they have to go and support. But what we see in today's world is gamers want to play games with their friends regardless of what device those friends are on. People want to have the largest selection of games open to them, and developers want to be able to make use of absolutely the best technology that's available. So basically that's how he feels about why there's no true Xbox Series X exclusives, at least at launch. That will most likely change as the console gets more popular, gets cheaper, and obviously the original Xbox One and Xbox One X are phased out. But at least for the beginning of the console's life, we're not going to see any true Xbox Series X exclusives. Now I can kind of see where Phil has come from, and it is a very customer friendly attitude to have, that he doesn't want to lock games off behind gates. He wants everyone to be able to play together. You know, this really is in line with Microsoft's strategy, what they've been doing this whole generation, to be honest. They want you in the Microsoft ecosystem. They don't care if it's on a Windows phone, if you're one of the 12 people that owns one. They don't care if it's on an Xbox One, S or X. And they don't care if it's on PC. They just want you in that ecosystem. But this makes perfect sense. But while it is customer friendly to say that, hey, look, you know, you can still play with your friends that are on Xbox One or whatever, you also have to think about the person who's going to be putting down $500, $600, depending on the final price for the machine. You know, you want to give them a reason to do that. And exclusives are kind of part of that, to be honest. Launch games are obviously a part of that. Obviously, someone who maybe missed out on the Xbox, they just want to buy the latest console. But I feel like exclusives are definitely system sellers. Now, obviously, there's going to be games that are on Xbox and not on Sony, but someone who already has an Xbox One X, they might be hard-pressed to think of a reason to upgrade if they can just carry on playing the games, at least for a little while. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, though. Do you think this strategy is going to bite them in the butt or not? I'd love to hear your thoughts. But with all that said, though, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.